Dr. Meltaco here. Today we're going to talk about the accounting equation, and what better way to explain the accounting equation than using one of the best bad guys, one of the best villains of all time. That's right, we're going to use Thanos as an example. So this is the accounting equation explained with Thanos as an example. So, if you do not know who Thanos is, he is not just a purple bad guy, but he is one of the best villains in Marvel. That's right, the MCU of all time. The accounting equation is a fundamental principle in bookkeeping. It states that a business's assets must always equal the sum of its liabilities and equity. While using Thanos as an example, we're going to say how his resources and motivations balanced within this equation. So again, we're going to use that accounting equation and do some Thanos explanations while we're at it. So what is the accounting equation? The accounting equation in a nutshell is assets equals liabilities plus equity. Again, assets equals liabilities plus equity is the accounting equation. You will find that accounting equation on the balance sheet when it comes to financial statements, but we'll get to that later. So we said assets equals liabilities plus equity. Assets, everything a person or that entity owns that has a future economic value or benefit. Liabilities, this is everything a person or entity owes to outside parties, debts, obligations, etc. And then finally, equity. This is the owner's claims on the assets after all debts are paid, pretty much the residual interest. So it's the assets minus liabilities. So where does Thanos fit into all of this? As you know, Thanos had we're going to call this a pilgrimage or a voyage or a mission to get the 6 Infinity Stones and do what he called balancing the universe or balancing the galaxy, whatever, floats your boat on that one. But we can view his resources and obligations through the lens of the equation. So, as far as Thanos' financials, when it came to the assets, his assets were the Infinity Gauntlet, the 6 Infinity Stones, his massive army, etc. So these are his assets. And how is this explained as far as the accounting equation? These are the resources that he controls and uses to achieve his goal, future benefit. When it comes to liabilities, we have his debt to the universe as far as overpopulation and finite resources. Remember, that's pretty much his belief going forward, is that he has a mission to fix the fact that there's overpopulation and the fact that there is finite or are finite resources. His obsession with balance, again, he's making balance his mission, and his past obligations. He figures that as a warmonger, pretty much on him to correct that problem. So the explanation as far as the accounting equation, these are the driving forces and perceived obligations that drive his actions and must be paid off. Remember, liabilities are things that you think you owe or that you do owe. If you think in the future you're going to owe X amount of dollars, you're going to save X amount of dollars as a future liability, etc. So these are the driving forces for him as far as liabilities. And then finally, we come to equity. As far as Thanos, his equity is his core belief, the philosophy that the snap is necessary for the greater good, his personal power, and what's left of his homeworld. Now, the accounting equation explained, this represents his underlying net worth and the core principles he owns once everything's said and done. Now, how does the equation balance in his world? Of course, in accounting, every transaction affects at least 2 accounts to maintain balance. Debit cash, you would credit inventory, things of that nature. For every action, there's a reaction within accounting. So, as far as acquiring an asset, such as his Infinity Stone. When the stones increase, he got a new immensely powerful item and a new power. And the equity increased. His overall capability and belief in his mission grows stronger. So acquiring the assets, his assets increase as well as the equity. Now, what about the liability? That liability is his sense of obligation. That increased. He is driven by a strong conviction. Of course, when a liability increases, the asset increases as well. So assets increase. His motivation increased, and this is his obligation to fuel his quest, direct his immense power towards a specific goal. Now, finally, we have settling the debt. The best way to explain settling the debt, of course, is the snap, the infamous snap. His assets, or rather the universe's resources, are preserved or increased, arguably, and the future economic benefits, sustainable life, are secured in his view. The liabilities, his perceived universal debt, is decreased. He believes he's paid his obligation and, of course, bringing his balance. And then finally, his equity. His mission is complete and it changes. The owner's claim. His philosophy is fulfilled and realized. So that's the snap explained in accounting terms. Earlier, it was mentioned that the balance sheet is the financial statement that shows the accounting equation. So the income statement will show the revenues and losses, the profit and gains, so to speak. But the balance sheet shows the accounting equation. Thanos' balance sheet would show that his assets were entirely funded by his liabilities and equity. So his power, his stones, the army, what have you, were entirely funded by his deep-seated, self-imposed mission, which led to his equity, his personal power, and conviction. That is the accounting equation with Thanos as an example. Hope you got something out of that. I am Dr. Mel Taco. We'll talk to you later. Bye.